5-Year Mission, the podcast, episode 18.
This episode of 5-Year Mission, the podcast, is brought to you by Fansets, your home for all things pop culture pin related. Head over to fansets.com and see all that they have to offer. And also stay tuned at the end of the episode for a very special offer from us here at 5-Year Mission.
By now you figured out that this is the 5-Year Mission podcast.
Welcome to 5-Year Mission, the podcast.
Welcome to 5-Year Mission, the podcast.
Go away. This is 5-Year Mission, the podcast.
I'm Chris. I'm joined by
Mike,
and Andy, aka Fark Don't Care, or what's your thing?
Fark is unimpressed.
Fark
Fark
Fark is
care.
Fark don't care.
Fark Don't Care.
Whatever, Coco.
So
You said it, Army Ninja.
tonight, well, I guess you could be listening to this anytime, really. So this episode,
Whatever time of day you're listening to this.
that's right. Whatever time of day you're listening to this,
Whether you're on your way to work or you're at work or you're on your way home from work.
probably not when you're at. Well, I guess you could do it when you're at work. I mean,
Who doesn't?
everybody's working from home now anyway.
Everybody's working for the weekend. Loverboy
You could
taught us that.
blast it from home, like just turn it up, because nothing.
Like Freedom Rock.
Yeah, and I mean, you think our music sounds good loud? You should just hear our voices talking in just conversational tones loud.
Our dulcet tones.
So what are we talking about tonight, guys? I mean, at this time on this episode,
We are going to talk about underrated, well, what we figure are underrated, underappreciated TOS episodes.
the unsung episodes, if you will.
I will.
I will too, because we've each chosen an episode, Andy and Mike and myself, and we're going to defend it. We're going to talk about why we think it deserves a higher rank in the echelon of Star Trek
Ooh.
TOS.
Good
You like that?
word.
Yeah.
Now spell it.
ESCHELON, right?
I think so.
Yeah, look it up.
No.
So what are we going to start with, Fark? I think we're going to start with you, right?
Well, I would like to say that I thought long and hard about this, but I really didn't, because I know often it gets overlooked, or it's like, this guy again. I went with I Mud because I loved I Mud. It's a second season episode. It was like halfway in between. It was like the midway point of season 2. And I thought it was fantastic. It's a nice little nugget of comedic gold, and plus you get to see everybody dance. That's in there. So
This is a quirky episode.
it's very quirky. I just love that they started it off with. They never explained it away how the android wound up on the Enterprise and actually was able to get a job.
Crewman Norman.
Crewman Norman.
Yeah, he just joined the Enterprise crew like 72 hours earlier or something.
Yeah. And then Bones was actually right to kind of be suspicious of him, because initially, in the opening scene, he's talking to Spock and he was like, there's something weird about Crewman Norman. And it's like,
Yes.
what is that? I don't trust a man that doesn't smile,
He doesn't like him at all.
which is hilarious
funny
that he
'cause-
was saying out to Spock.
Well, Bones, as acerbic as he is usually fairly laid back and easygoing.
Yeah.
You know.
Sort of a jovial butthole.
Yeah. So I think that was foreshadowing, but not very subtle foreshadowing.
Yeah. Something about that guy.
Yeah.
Kind of robotic.
When you see Norman talking like later in the episode, he's so clearly robotic and an android. Like, how did he fake his way past whatever security measures to get on the Enterprise as an officer?
You know,
Like-
it raises the question. How easy is it to get assigned to the flagship?
Right.
You know,
Hey,
because
if Barkley can do it, anyone can do it. Right?
it seems like there's some loopholes in the ascending the ranks on Star Trek. There might be some loopholes in there, because he was. I can't remember what rank he was, but he was wearing command, wasn't he?
Just
Or no, he
yeah,
was.
he's just crewman. They never.
Oh,
they,
he was
they
a
never.
crewman. Oh, okay.
But he was
So
dressed
maybe
in
not-
blue.
I did, but again, a crewman for some odd reason is able to get a job on the Enterprise, and then B, somehow just immediately make his way into auxiliary controls and to be able to take over the ship, and also after that get into engineering and fully take over the ship.
You know, this episode has some of. Now, I know that he is an android and has superior strength, but it has some of the most hilarious, like karate chop knockout fight scenes in the series. He walks into that auxiliary engineering and just karate chops.
Engineering.
It's not even a hard chop either. It's just like he just taps him on the neck and then the guy falls over.
Excuse me. It's like one of those fainting goats.
Yeah. So that was that. You know, it has the funny fight scenes. It has, it reminds me a lot of Plato's Stepchildren, where they're just, the characters are doing very weird things that they wouldn't normally do. And this has it as well, which I think just that in of itself raises the level, you know, because it's just something that we don't normally see out of the crew. You know, oh man, Shatner is just chewing up scenery in this.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole thing,
which is not unusual, but as they're play acting and trying to confuse the androids, it's really funny because they're all getting into it. And I thought that was great.
Well, even Spock at the end.
Yeah.
This is another one of those Kirk talks the computer to death episodes.
It is. Yeah. And even in this one, Norman, you know, when he's talking to him and trying to confuse him and just the smoke starts coming out of his car.
The classic cartoon robot does not compute.
So I looked this up on a couple lists, and it falls in the mid 30s usually as far as rankings go, from 1 to they're usually 79. They usually don't rank the cage, but so that's not bad. No, but it seems to me like it's just kind of I
can take it or leave it kind of thing.
It's exactly. At like 34, 35 is just kind of a throwaway, like whatever. You know, it's not great, it's not terrible.
Was Mudd's women higher than this one?
No. Not when I looked.
I was gonna say, because I always thought this was the better Harry Mudd episode.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is too. It has more life to it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, they were able to let Harry Mudd shine a little bit more as like his little scoundrel self.
Yeah.
Right.
Kirk, old boy.
Yeah. Well, and they also, one thing about this episode with the dynamic between Harry and what's his wife's name?
Stella.
Yeah, with Stella.
Hot.
Yes, it's very much of the time, I think, and especially because he seems to get such pleasure out of telling her to shut up.
Yeah.
It's not really her.
It's basically just like a punching bag or like scream therapy or something. It's like like I got to get this out of my system. Yeah.
So I mean, you wouldn't see something like that today, because even if a husband had an overbearing wife, like this is what they were trying to portray. But even if, now I don't think they would do it in quite the same manner.
No, not at all.
So it's, you definitely have that.
That's definitely a product of the time.
Yeah. Andy, what do you think? What elevates this one for you?
This one for me, because it was great that they actually utilized like the ensemble cast that was like beamed down to the planet. Because I mean, because you find out that the entire crew of the Enterprise has been beamed down to the planet, just not within the same confines as like Kirk and Spock and McCoy and
it was really
eventually
convenient
Scotty,
that they put all of the main officers in one room, and
minus Sulu. Yeah,
the rest of the crew is somewhere else.
Yeah. No, I thought it was great because like they were able to let like Uhura shine. They were able to let Chekhov shine. Spock, of course, played like a huge role in, figuring out that they're like all the androids are basically daisy chained together and lead back to Norman.
Yeah.
Oh, when I was watching it, it really made me think of the collective, like the Borg collective.
Yeah.
And it made me wonder if
that might have been kind of a jump off point for the Borg.
Retcon that at some point.
You never know.
Actually, I was thinking that with the whole like artificial life that's trying to like they're plotting to like take over the galaxy. Mm-hmm. It's almost like maybe it's a prequel to Picard. Like maybe the artificial life that they were trying to contact were these androids. Like maybe this is the start of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think about that.
Because the androids on Picard, I mean, they're kind of a similar modern day model of those type of androids.
Well, Norman even says after he reveals to Mudd that he was like, no, Mudd, you're staying here too because humans are really, really flawed. You more so than others. Yeah. But we're basically going to take over this starship and we're going to go out and we're going to teach humans to be like better in the world. And so basically that's like an early version of like assimilation. It's like you're going to do what we tell you to do from now on. So that's very like early stages Borg-esque. I mean, I think a lot of people tend to forget that because so many people like, okay, the majority of modern Star Trek fans seem to write off TOS as like cheesy. And so a lot of people I come across in Star Trek groups like don't even watch TOS, like, oh, it's 60s camp, blah, blah, blah. Right? But you can kind of see like I can maybe see where they got this in like DS9 or TNG from this. So it's basically just like these days when like I see people that listen to nothing but like modern day mumble rap, and it's like, oh yeah, you're listening to like NWA or Run DMC or like Cool Mo D or anything like that. I don't even know who that is. It's like go back and study where all this came from. Learn to at least appreciate the originals.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, I used to have the same attitude towards the original series. I thought it was really campy, and it is, but it's not without deep story, even though it's not serialized, but a lot of these capsule episodes have some really strong stuff in there.
Yeah, which have been basically back in the 60s, like that was like television was just bottle episodes. You didn't really see like a ongoing storyline. You might get a callback now and then, but you're not going like on like a Game of Thrones type journey back in the 60s.
Yeah. I mean, it is shrouded in a lot of, goofiness and obviously bright colors and low, they didn't have a lot of money. So to go to a planet, it's like a blue background and some fake trees. But, if you can look past that, then there's actually a lot of good stuff in there.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're lucky, they'll go to the park from shore leave.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they can't afford to shoot on location every single time.
Yeah. So this was one of the episodes that we chose for tonight that we have a song for.
Yeah, Patrick's song.
I think Patrick did a really great job translating this episode into a song.
Oh, totally.
Getting the feel of it and translating the feel of the episode, plus all these callbacks to lines that actually happen in the episode.
Actually, most of the lyrics are lines from the episode.
Yeah, they really are. And just, you really get a feel for the relationship between Stella and Mudd. And it's just, I think this is I really like the song that Patrick wrote for this.
And it's a good song. Like, I mean, it's fun to listen to. It's not just good lyrics, but like it's fun to play. And
it is fun to play.
Yeah.
And real quick from just a couple little factoids from Memory Alpha. David Gerald actually did an uncredited rewrite on this episode. One of the significant changes that he made at Gene Kuhn's request was to get the crew onto the planet by the end of the first act.
Yeah.
And then also the opening scene, like before the opening credits roll, is actually the longest in the original series to go on before the opening credits roll.
Oh, really?
At 5 minutes and 35 seconds. It's the longest opening teaser scene.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I read all of these facts earlier today, so I kind of have them all in my head.
Yeah, I just thought that was great that it just shows like rewriting can really like work on the pacing of an episode.
Do you guys notice how terrible Kirk's hair looks in this episode?
Oh, absolutely.
It looks like he hasn't washed it in a month.
Like mine?
I didn't notice.
No,
that.
I mean it's like really like some of the strands on the side are just like super greasy and like curl out, and
It's all
it
matted.
just looks like they didn't really try to style his hair.
Poor Shatner.
Poor Shatner.
The episode also, one of the great things about it is it features like the classic Bones and Spock bickering. Like at the beginning, like that whole opening scene is like the two of them like arguing and calling each other names.
Pointy-eared hobgoblin.
Also, you know, the sets on the planet are like pretty cool looking and I mean, they look like sets from the original series. Like, I mean, let's be honest, every alien planet they go to is similar.
Well, but this set, it was like simple in design with like all its like little straight lines and everything, and more boxy than anything else. It really worked considering the planet was built for androids and it was like the most efficient.
Yeah.
It's like, so they really didn't need any kind of like sense of decor or anything like that. It's like, nah, we just work here, man. That's all it is.
Yeah, I think Star Trek original series was always at its best scenery wise when they were inside rather than outside.
Yeah. Well, unless you count the remastered versions where they actually like digitally created alien worlds, because those look fantastic. But that's But that's like modern day effects.
But they didn't do it for, you know, they didn't flesh out everything. I mean, the city in Operation Annihilate, you know, they fleshed that out. But, you know, you watch, I don't know, Squire of Gothos, you watch Metamorphosis, those still have, you know, in the outdoor scenes, it's just like this purpley kind of background.
Right.
You know, it kind of, you know, like there's some kind of light source down there and it fades up into darkness or whatever. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen either one of those. I think Gothos is more like this gray sky, but whatever. So I'm sold on that one. I liked that one anyway. Yeah. But
I was actually surprised that you picked it, Andy, because I always considered this to be like one of the better episodes, but
I agree.
I guess that's kind of not the common opinion.
No, because I see people crapping on this episode left and right in like Facebook Star Trek groups. It's like, oh, there's 2 mud episodes and I skip them both every single time. It's like, really? Why? Do you just hate fun?
There shouldn't be any skipping. You should watch every episode.
That's right, at least once.
Well, yeah. I think my favorite moment in that whole episode is when they're all laughing and then Kirk goes like this. Like he swipes his hands and everyone
moves his hands like stop,
and suddenly he's really serious.
Yeah. He's definitely the one in charge. So that's iMud. I think we've established that. I think there's still a lot of better episodes.
Yeah,
I think it deserves a little bit more kudos,
a little more credit than it deserves.
If it's been a while since you saw it, you should watch it again.
Yep, I agree. Watch and laugh at the antics.
So, Chris, what did you pick since you're technically next in the production order with your pick?
Okay, so I chose The Way to Eden. And the reason I chose this episode is because it's easy to write this one off because it's the quote unquote space hippies episode. But, you know, it plays with the idea of following mindlessly behind an idea, you know?
Mhm.
So this group of space hippies, they're looking for this planet that may or may not exist. And, you know, Spock says he believes them. He thinks that it probably does exist, but, you know, how do you find it? And they're willing to do anything to find this place, but they don't even know that it exists. They just believe it. It's this whole faith thing.
Yep, just blind faith.
Yeah, it's blind faith. And it's supposed to be this, you know, Eden, which hence the episode, it's supposed to be this utopia.
It's supposed to be the Eden.
And I think they handle it so well because they really show the lengths to which these people will go. They don't care about anybody but themselves. And they're just so driven to get to this mythical place, this mythical planet, that they just do whatever they want. And I think I just think the whole idea behind it is something that we don't see explored very often.
No.
Or as often as maybe it should be in this context. And at the time, you know, in the 60s when this was released, I would think that would be somewhat subversive if you think of it that way, especially if you think of it, it was almost as if it like organized religion, you know, where, you know, that's not something that you would necessarily talk about in a negative way on a TV show, but they found a way to do it, you know, and really make a point out of it. And obviously the point goes over a lot of people's heads, I think, because people don't like the episode just because the camp level is high.
Oh, very, very high.
But this is the episode where Uhura sings with Spock.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not.
Or is this? No, it's the Spock sings with the space hippies.
He plays the
Ship with the bicycle wheel.
Does he just play? He doesn't sing?
No, he doesn't sing. The only person who sings is Charles Napier.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Which he's great.
Yeah. Actually, he's really great in this episode, and it's a really out of character for Charles Napier. Like if you watch his other work, like throughout the 70s and 80s and 90s, like he is not that kind
and
of.
Also on Deep Space Nine
and Little Green Men. He plays the
general,
right? Yeah. And I mean, that's the kind of character he usually plays, like the tough as nails general who
the army hard ass.
Yeah. But like in this episode, like he is just not that at all. He's this smiling, goofy guy that is always holding this guitar looking thing and singing everything he says.
I think
brother.
I think that they really played up the whole hippie thing. I think they may have overdone that a little bit.
Well, considering this was also released in 1969.
Yeah.
I mean, they were definitely trying to cash in. I mean, considering they brought in Chekhov because of the popularity of the Monkees.
Yeah.
They wanted a Mickey Dolenz type. So they brought him in.
Yeah. So this one, when I looked it up, this one is generally in the 70s. So
that's ridiculous to me because this is in like my top. This is in my top like 15.
Really?
I think it's. I think it's a fun episode. I do think they kind of it may be a little bit heavy-handed, and also it's a little bit absurd that this group of like 5 or 6 hippies take over the Enterprise.
Yeah.
You'd think that the Enterprise would have
they distracted everybody with their kindness and music.
That's right.
Just like regular hippies.
Yeah. So that part is, you know, I don't know about that, but I don't think it takes away from the episode so much that it deserves such a low spot, you know?
No, I mean, the music is really, really goofy. And I think that's why a lot of people don't like it. Cause it's like, oh, this is dumb. I eat up all the fruit and throw away the rind.
But that music makes this episode absolutely unique from all of the other episodes of the original series. There's no other episode like this one.
That's true. Oh, it was Charlie X at Uhura sings,
right?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and then Spock plays in this one.
Can we talk about Chekhov's eyeshadow? in this episode for a moment. It is so distracting that you can't even really pay attention to what he's saying in that scene where he's talking to the girl. Like, somebody went to town.
I don't remember
Somebody went to town.
Oh wait, is this is the one where doesn't he know that girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were at Starfleet Academy together.
Yeah, and she quit to become a space hippie.
Yeah.
And now he's on the Enterprise.
Irina.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I like about this episode is that not only does it show the zealots and what can happen when they follow this intangible dream, but it also shows what the reality, they find at the end of this rainbow. It's not what they thought it was going to be.
Right.
This world is dying, and you'll die too if you stay on it.
And this guy, what's the guy's name?
Dr. Severin. And let's just for a second, let's just, I'd like to say he gives a fantastic performance as that character.
He's great.
The actor's name is Skip Homier. And he's just really good in this episode.
He has a really good presence, I think. Yeah. Especially at the very beginning when Spock is greeting them, and that's another thing I really like about this episode is Spock shows a lot of respect towards them, despite the fact that he doesn't understand necessarily or agree with what they're doing, but he gets he understands what they're trying to do. And this episode, Spock really displays his ability to have empathy, even though he doesn't necessarily feel,
This episode is a great representation of the whole idic mentality that that the Vulcans possess, because it's like I realize that your religion is bullshit, but I'm gonna because with most religions in the world, it's like there's some good ideas thrown in there, but there's always going to be a little drawback here or there, and a few offshoots that people are just gonna be that's a little too much. Because and plus, like I said, considering this was 1969 with the whole hippie movement and everything too, this was also right around the time when cults were getting really big.
Yeah, with,
the
Charles
Moonies
Manson
and the Manson family and everything, and and so they were everywhere. So and I thought this was looking back at it now, I'm sure a lot of people were kind of making the connection while it was airing. It's this is what's happening in Colorado or whatever, and. I thought I think it's still a really great representation of how just being a true follower doesn't always work out in the end. Yeah.
And I think they also, with the doctor, they highlight that these people are following him. They believe in him and what he believes in. But in the end, you realize he's not right. He has this ability to lead, and he has this presence that draw people in, but what he's going after, it's just an idea, and when he finds that this idea is shattered, he still, when he knows it's going to kill him, and he does it anyway, and it's just I just think this episode deserves a lot more credence than it gets, because
absolutely.
It does not have a happy ending,
No.
These people, what are they going to do? What are they going to do now? Their leader's dead, and everybody, I don't understand why it doesn't get, I do understand why people don't like it, but I think it really deserves another look. And also, my favorite part about this episode is that they call everybody Herbert. Instead of calling him the man, they just call him Herbert, and that is hilarious to me.
Because one, we are one, and one is the beginning.
One.
That's right.
I think that the hippie words that they made up are a little distracting. They're just kind of
reach, brother.
They're pretty silly. I feel like they almost overuse them. But since it's only in the one episode, it's not that bad. But if they were in several episodes, it would get old really quick.
I like Herbert and I like Reach, but there were some other ones that it was like they were trying too hard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
So similar to the karate chop to the neck in I Mud, this episode also has a very funny way of knocking a guy out by using your thumbs and just poking him in the side of the neck.
Oh yeah, because that wouldn't hurt your thumbs.
Oh, at all.
But yeah, he didn't even do it hard. He just walked up and just like taps the guy with his thumbs, and the guy falls out of the chair.
Yeah,
Pressure points, man.
pressure points without pressure.
Yeah,
It's a thing.
Oh god, I was just looking over Memory Alpha, and I'd forgotten about the lyrics to one of the songs that Adam sang. It was a stiff man putting my mind in jail, and the judge gonna bang the gavel and say no bail.
Oh,
Gonna
man.
lick his hand and wag my tail. Yeah, brother. God.
You know, interestingly enough, James Doohan did not like this episode. I'm not sure why.
yeah. He said it was his least favorite, right?
I think he said it was the only one he didn't like, which is really weird.
I wonder why. There's got to be
After
some
Wolf
reason.
in the Fold, and he didn't like this one.
Hey, Wolf in
I
the
don't
Fold
know.
is like his starring
hippies.
episode, man.
I know. That's why I said that.
He deserves at least a 2-minute song.
At least. I know, right? So this is also the one where you get Chekhov's middle name.
Both of actually, I think it's the first mention of his first name and his middle name.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Pavel.
Yeah, I think you're right.
What's his middle name? I can't remember.
Andreevich.
Yeah, it starts with an A.
Oh yeah,
right?
that's right. That was one of those the real or fake questions that I asked you on a
Oh,
previous
yeah.
episode, Mike.
Full
I should have
circle.
remembered that. Yeah, this was also originally written by DC Fontana, but after all the rewrites, she wasn't happy with the script, so she used her pseudonym, another pseudonym actually, Michael Richards.
What?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, because she had to go by DC because it's like, ooh, women writers, so she just went by DC to make it a little more
Oh, yeah.
neutral.
Right.
So yeah, her pseudonym is a man's name, Michael Richards.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's
Ah.
funny.
Yeah, so I think this one is definitely better than the 70s. Maybe it's mid-level.
I mean,
There are better episodes, but I think it's definitely better than.
it's got to be higher than the Empath
Yeah.
and Lights of
I would hope
Sitar.
so.
Well, and plus it's definitely one
It
of
is
the more
higher than
like
Lights of Sitar.
what's great about this episode is like whether you like the episode or not, it's definitely one of the most memorable episodes of TOS. Like the Way to Eden. Oh, the Space Hippie episode.
Yeah,
Exactly.
everybody knows
You
what it
know.
is.
Yeah.
And this is the only song that we have written so far for year 5, and I had fun with it.
Noah has submitted 2 songs, Chris.
He has?
Yeah.
I haven't heard him. Submitted where?
Check your email from November.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was a while back.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, yeah. You know what? I do remember that. You're right. But one of them, he said he wasn't sure about, and he was probably going to change. So
Yeah.
that doesn't count. Noah, we'll get 4 brand new songs, and then we'll get 4 more brand new songs. Then we'll have a Spock's Brain album.
Yeah.
That's how this band works.
So the makeup in this episode is pretty good, right? Like all of the space hippies look pretty decent.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Deborah Downey looks super cute, right? And the guy's ears, the doctor guy's ears are pretty interesting.
There's something. Yeah.
The bald cap is not too fake looking. But what about purple hair guy? Like,
Oh yeah.
could they have tried a
Who was
little
also in
harder to
Mary.
make it look real? Because he just does not look realistic.
He was the percussionist of the Space Hippies. He was like a one man drum circle.
But it wasn't just that he had like this fake looking purple hair,
Oh, yeah.
but he had
It
the
had, like, the
eyebrows too.
He
Yeah.
looks crazy.
And the far back hairline
Yeah,
too.
it was like a hair bald cap thing that like came all the way down to his eyebrows.
Yeah, that guy was interesting.
Like everyone else looked decent, and then that guy just looks like like a high school play.
Hey man,
I still want to know what the little medals on their things that look like eggs were.
That have the little infinity symbol on them.
Yeah, they look like a fried egg.
Yeah,
they never really explain those away. Like this is the symbol of our people.
I don't know.
Did they say that? Or
no, they never did.
No,
they never even referenced them.
They're all wearing them, but they never mention them.
I see. Yeah, you're right. Interesting. It must be the symbol of their cult or whatever.
Because they're one.
Oh, maybe that's true. Yeah, maybe that is.
Yeah,
because they are one.
Well, considering the hand gesture is like a triangle, you'd think their symbol would be a triangle.
Yeah, you would think. And Mike mentioned it. Deborah Downey's in this episode. She is actually from Indiana. Mm-hmm. She still lives here, doesn't she?
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah.
We've met her a couple times at Starbase Indy.
Mm-hmm.
And she would even pose for photos with the bicycle wheel.
That's right. Yeah, bicycle wheel, which is an instrument apparently.
Yes.
So,
and which actually sounds an awful lot like a bass guitar type instrument when she plays it. It's like pretty low notes.
When she plays it.
Yeah.
With Spock, yeah.
But it doesn't, I mean, it could be a bass guitar for all we know that actually makes the sound.
You got to use your imagination, Chris.
I'm sure it's probably some kind of synthesizer or something.
Suspense of bicycle wheel belief.
Right. Sorry. Didn't mean to ruin it. So, Mike, let's talk about your episode.
Oh, yes.
What is typically looked at as the worst Star Trek episode.
Is it?
Of the original series.
Which I have some things to say about it after watching it today.
It's something.
Is it considered like the worst? I didn't think it was the worst.
One of the worst.
Oh, sure. It's one of the worst. Yeah.
I looked at a couple lists today and it was dead last.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising considering like the alternative factor and Cat's Paw are both out there.
Man,
Cat's Paw is not that bad of an episode.
I love the alternative factor. It's ridiculous.
It's way better than the Empath and Mark of Gideon and
the Savage Curtain.
The Savage Curtain is just funny.
The Lights of Zetar.
When it's not supposed to be.
It's not good. That's probably my least favorite episode.
I would actually, I would say Cat's Paw is in the top 30.
Well, let's get back to
Turnabout Intruder is the episode that we're talking about.
The last episode of the original series. Well, and interestingly, this, it doesn't, a lot of shows have a farewell episode, or this is the series finale, but
right.
They were hoping that they would be up for another season and they didn't get that. So they just have this is like their final episode.
Well, also in the 60s, they usually didn't make a final episode of anything. Shows just went until they ended and they just stopped making them.
They still had, some of them still had some closure. Yeah. Or at least some kind of like, okay, we're doing this and it'll continue, but you won't get to see it, that kind of thing.
Right.
But this didn't have that. It was just one of those bottle episodes, and
so
it was something.
Obviously, the first thing we should even talk about is the obvious elephant in this episode.
Misogyny.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The short-sighted failed attempt at addressing sexism, which really, really missed the mark.
Oh my God! Especially some of those lines. It's like, no, you're going to have to learn to know what it's like to live alone as a woman. Yeah. It's like, ooh, come on, dude.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of cringy stuff in this episode.
Roddenberry actually said, he was. Because people tried to soften it and say, well, this is what you were trying to do. And he's like, no, it was just sexist.
Nope, just totally sexist.
So that's, that is a big mark against this episode. And I think from, what I've seen, it's one of the major points that people say this is why it's the worst.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, we can explain away like, fan made up reasons for why they say the things they say or whatever. But I mean, in the end, it was not ahead of its time like most of Star Trek usually is.
It was unusually not ahead of its time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that with the character of is it Janice Lester?
Yes.
Was that her name? Okay, yeah. With her character, like it's kind of hard to tell like what they were going for. It's like did they make her crazy because she's crazy, or did they make her crazy because she's a woman?
Right.
That's the thing, because
I didn't get that.
Well, it's at certain points you can tell she is just kind of mentally unstable. But at other points it's like they're just doing this because there's like bitches be tripping.
Right.
That's basically it.
In the episode, they kind of allude to the fact that she's this way because she was denied the opportunity to be a captain. And because of that, she has like fallen into this.
She blames Kirk for it.
Yeah.
And that's why
obsession.
It's almost, she has this obsession with revenge. I didn't think that she was so much crazy because she was a woman. It was more that she was crazy because of, crazy is not a good term.
No, it's not a good term. No.
Right. But what she
mentally unstable.
Yeah, the reason why she has this difficulty is because she isn't dealing well with the way society has treated her because she's a woman. But Kirk specifically says that she hates that she's a woman, or hear the doctor, somebody says it, and I'm just like, whoa,
yeah.
She hates that she's and I'm just, which maybe that character does, but that's a lot. That's a heavy thing to say.
So I'm certainly not trying to forgive the obvious mistakes made in this episode or trying to explain it away or whatever. But I thought that I would choose this episode because it does have a few redeeming qualities as an episode of Star Trek. It has some good parts in it as well if you overlook the terrible aspects of it. I think one of the best parts about this episode, which up until now, you didn't really ever see this. So Kirk and Janice, the doctor, what's her last name?
Lester,
yeah. They basically switch bodies. And so Kirk is in the body of this woman and Janice Lester is in the body of Kirk. And they have this this trial, this sham trial, and Spock stands up to Kirk. Now he knows that it's not Kirk, but that the interaction is, I just love it, man. The way Spock stands up, because Spock is usually he's very logical, very straightforward, but you never see him confrontational, not really. And in this episode, he just stands up and he's like, no, you're wrong. I'm standing behind what I believe. And there's no, I just think it's really cool the way they did that. Yeah.
It's very interesting. I mean, there've been other episodes where he's had to stand up to Kirk, but it's
different in this one.
Yeah. It was a little more obvious to the other people that he needed to. In this one, up until that point where Janice Lester starts to kind of flip out and they start to see that he's not really Kirk. I mean, up until that point, Spock just seems like he's out of his mind. Like,
yeah. I was a little disappointed that Kirk in the body of Janice Lester is trying to convince people on the ship that he is Kirk in this body. And he finally does convince Spock. And actually, Bones has the whole thing with Bones is weird in this episode, I think, because he just doesn't seem to really know what he thinks.
Right. Because he's trying to trust in the science.
Yeah, exactly. Which I thought was which I think is very Bones-like, but it was interesting the way they did it.
Uh-huh.
But the thing that disappointed me is that Kirk is trying to get Spock to understand that this is him and this woman's body. But the only way Spock believes him is he mind melds with him.
Right.
And I think it would have been so much better had he just talked a little more.
But
and
remember that time that this happened? Who else would know this?
Yeah, which he did.
He tried, but he mentioned things that would have been on record.
Anybody.
He could have talked about some stuff that was personal with him and Spock, which would have been a good character building moment for the series.
Exactly. So I was a little disappointed in that. But then, they take that once Spock knows who he is, then they take that, and in the trial, when he stands up, nobody else believes this. I mean, even, they there's a shot of Chekhov. I think is Sulu in that episode too. Is Chekhov and Sulu? I think because all the officers are in the.
Everyone but Uhura is in the episode.
Yeah, because Uhura's not in this episode for some reason, and they have a different communications officer, and so even at some when Kirk and this woman's body tries to convince them who he is. Everybody kind of laughs, and Kirk is like, oh, whatever, and Janice and Kirk's body it really reminds me of, he was just gaslighting everybody and making it seem like, or she was gaslighting everybody, trying to make it seem like this person's crazy. You can't believe what they're saying. And even the officers sitting there snickering to each other. And I thought it was interesting. It showed a side, because you would think that these Starfleet officers would take this seriously, even though they think it's absurd, but they didn't, they were just kind of laughing. And I thought that was
right.
I thought that was weird.
Yeah. It felt really uncomfortable watching because it's like, okay, I understand them finding it far-fetched, like hard to believe that he's not Kirk, but to actually be laughing along as he's mocking this other person, it just seemed, that was
out of character.
Maybe
Chekhov, because Chekhov tended to be kind of a jackass sometimes anyway.
Now, those guys, they just kind of giggled a little. It was the security guys that were just like practically high-fiving over it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It still seemed a little weird to me.
Let's talk about Shatner's acting in this episode.
Oh man,
a lot of people, they think of him as like a really cheesy actor, maybe even a bad actor or whatever. But like, I actually think that he does a fantastic job in this episode as playing a different person in his body. His mannerisms, the way he walks, all the things he does are different when he's Lester.
Yeah,
and
I agree. And
there's a lot of little details that they do in this episode, like where he's filing his nails and stuff like that. I just think that it's really interesting and just a really good job on everybody's part. I mean, Shatner, the director or whatever,
I think in the original series, Shatner had a tendency to overplay things, especially when they were a little overboard. But in this case, I think he's still Shatner, but just like you said, he's distinctly different. It's like in The Enemy Within. Yeah.
When
he plays
the two different Kirks, they're very different. Very
different. And they're very distinct. If you put these three Kirks next to each other, you can tell they're different, which is, it's not easy to do as an actor.
I think that he's a much better actor than he gets credit for most of the time.
I agree.
Yeah, I really, really liked him in this episode, mainly because they were able to kind of just let him loose a little bit and kind of like play around with like being somebody else, like trapped inside his body or whatever. But again, like you mentioned with like in the Enemy Within, he was able to get that evil out. Basically, except sort of like his counterpart in Mirror that we didn't really get to see enough of, in my opinion, in that episode.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
But yeah, in this episode, it was kind of neat to see the both of them actually, Shatner and the actress that played Janice Lester, like be able to kind of like play somebody different but still themselves.
Yeah, she was as Kirk. she was very subdued. I thought, but
Yeah.
when they switched back and they were back in their bodies, which the special effects for that are pretty hilarious.
Yeah, the pretty
Swapping.
cheesy effects in this episode.
Yeah, so that was funny.
The budget was getting low.
But she is, when she switches back, very heightened, obviously not mentally stable.
Yeah. The actress's name is Sandra Smith. And I think that her portrayal of Kirk was pretty good.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, there were even some moments where she almost was doing like the Shatner when she was talking, like just in a couple of scenes a little bit. But overall, I think that, playing like the straight, like, serious whatever, and then switching to like losing her mind at the end because she's failed to do what she wanted to do. I think that, that's a really big contrast, and it shows that, I think she's definitely a good actress.
So this is also a very anticlimactic episode.
Yeah.
Because they basically have in a cell, they're all imprisoned because they're back in the, who they know is the captain, or who they believe is the captain. It's Kirk and McCoy and Spock and Scotty. So they're all on board with who the captain really is. And for some reason, this transference starts to weaken at some point. You see him,
they start to switch back for a second.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Kirk is on the bridge. Janice in Kirk's body is on the bridge, and he's elsewhere in this cell. In the brig, and they start to transfer, and then they don't. But then they get, the doctor is like, we have to kill him before, otherwise you're going to transfer back. And then it's just really convoluted about, they take her out of the brig, and she's there in Kirk's body, and then all of a sudden she's like, oh, and then they transfer back. It's just like, what?
Out of nowhere. Well, apparently that body transference only lasts for so long.
Yeah, and unless you kill the other person, and then you get to keep the body.
Yeah, so that part is just...
That's why she keeps trying to kill herself throughout the episode, because she wants the transference to stay. Which I thought was a little odd that she was so easy and quick to destroy her body that she has had for her entire life. Like immediately, like, I don't care about that anymore. That's not me.
Yeah. Well, and you'd think that if once you do this transference, you have a couple options. You can kill the person that used to be you, so you get to be who you want to be, or you switch back and people find out and you're going to go to prison or whatever. So you would think there'd be more of a sense of urgency to get this person dead.
Right. Well, she did try to kill herself.
Not very hard.
Immediately at the beginning of the episode.
There was a lot of exposition there that could have been cut out and just,
with the scarf.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that, if she really wanted to be Kirk, she could have been, and she didn't try hard enough.
She screwed it up, man.
She did. She's got no one to blame but herself.
So there are a few redeeming qualities in this episode, mainly in the acting, and there's some very entertaining parts. Like the whole trial, as bizarre as it is very entertaining to watch.
Well, it's entertaining, especially to watch, considering you get to see Captain Kirk in quotes ordering the execution of like all the main characters. Which had that been the actual finale and they were killed, that would have been an ultimate series end.
That would have been crazy. Right. Well, we're killing all of our main characters, including the mind of Captain Kirk.
Yeah,
but everybody dies.
Someone pretending to be Captain Kirk is going to continue from here, but we're not going to follow that because we're done.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I think there are a lot better episodes, but I don't think this deserves to be as reviled as it is outside of
this misogyny,
the horrible misogyny.
It's certainly not the 79th episode on my
No.
list. I mean, it might be in the bottom 10, but it's not the very bottom.
I think another reason people really don't like this episode is because it's like truly the series finale of the original series.
Right.
And it's like it wasn't meant to be. So they weren't like trying to wrap anything up. They weren't trying to like, give any kind of closure of any kind. It's just like, boom, that's it. You get this crap fest.
Yeah, it has kind of a really bummer. Like the ending is kind of it's just like, it's not a shot of the ship. No. It's just Kirk and probably Scotty or Spock and Bones going to this turbo lift, and that's it. It's over.
It's like we're gonna go reflect in our own personal quarters and don't talk to me for at least 2 days.
After this traumatic experience,
right?
Need some alone time.
My ex-girlfriend just tried to murder me in her body.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna need some time.
So in the third season, they use this sound a few times. In this episode, it's during the mind meld.
Uh-huh.
And I just wanted to point it out. It's just like cool bass riff. It's just like real.
You'll have to insert that into the episode.
It's like really laid back, but it's just like this bass guitar playing just these notes, and they do it like during like mind melds and other sort of like weird moments, mostly in the third season. But I just wanted to point it out because I think it's a really cool like use of a bass guitar.
So that's going to be in the song, right?
It is now. Yeah, it's going to have to be there.
I call bass.
Oh yeah, because Mike's writing Turnabout Intruder. So Mike started off year 1 with the cage, and now he's going to end year 5, the end of the TOS run.
Yep.
Was Turnabout Intruder.
Yep.
Ooh, nice bookend. Did you plan that?
I hoped for it, and it happened.
Is Noah opening this album?
He is.
Tholian Web, right?
Yeah, with the Tholian Web. Yep. That's one of the demos he sent in November.
Yeah, I remember that. What's the other one?
I don't remember.
The other one was the other song.
The other one's the one that he's going to rewrite.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I remember really liking Tholian.
So
Web.
just a couple more things with Turnabout Intruder. We get the return of Angela.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We haven't seen her since shore leave, and suddenly she's back, and now she's on the bridge. She's communications,
moving up in the world,
wearing red instead of blue.
You mean like? Oh, that's Angela.
Yes, it's the same actress.
As in,
yeah, as in Balance of Terror, Angela.
Poor Robert.
The other thing I want to mention was the captain's logs in this episode.
Oh man!
Yeah.
First of all, why is Janice Lester recording a captain's log revealing all of her secrets and deception? On putting it on record?
Yeah.
Like why she does it a few times, and then the other time is there's a captain's log in Janice Lester's voice, and it's Captain Kirk
as
recording
Kirk,
a captain. How did he record a captain's log as Janice Lester?
Well,
I think it was more of like a captain's mental note.
If you notice, when Kirk in Janice's body first wakes up, because at first he's almost catatonic, and he wakes up
bad
and he's
dream,
speaking with this woman's voice, and still doesn't realize that he's in a different body.
But also still doing like the Shatnerian commas.
Yeah.
Like, must be a bad dream.
At one point, she looks at her hand like,
right.
Whose hand is this? And I'm like, you've just been talking for 5 minutes.
Are you not listening to your own voice?
I mean, what do you think? Did you think you were on helium while you were passed out? I don't understand what's happening here. And then, she looks in the mirror like, oh my God, I'm a woman. Yeah. That's where that voice is coming from. I just thought that part took me out of the episode. It's like, come on.
Little much. And according to Memory Alpha, I was just scrolling through there because I was wondering why Nichelle Nichols wasn't in the episode, and we got Angela Martine in the communications chair. The reason that Nichelle Nichols wasn't there is because she had a singing engagement And so she couldn't make filming that day.
Interesting.
Can you imagine you're Nichelle Nichols and you're thinking, oh, you know what? I'll be in the next episode.
Right?
Right after they finished, like they wrapped the episode, they learned that they weren't coming back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it might have even been during filming of the episode.
I think you're right. Oh, yeah, because according to Memory Alpha, it says even as filming was wrapping up, crew members were dismantling the Enterprise sets.
Yeah. That's just sad to think about. It's like, well, we're done. There's we got a lot of turnover here at this restaurant, so we're gonna need the table.
Yeah, right. I mean, that was a part of her life, and so I'm sure she was very happy when they asked her to come back for once they started doing the movies. You know, kind of, I get to actually be in the last, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
Oh, so in a lot of the third season, Shatner wears a corset. But he must have been working out or something for this episode, because he had the shirtless thing for the and he actually looks pretty good. Like, he looks in shape. He doesn't look like so he must have been trying to get back in shape.
Like, Bill, we're gonna have you shirtless in this episode,
and we're gonna have you shirtless a lot next season. So you need to get into shape before next.
You're gonna be TJ Hooker one day. You better start working out now.
Right.
Oh, and I think I finally figured out why Star Trek wound up getting canceled after this episode. It was like a pre-curse. Not a precursor, but it was a precurse. Because according to These Are the Voyages, Gene Roddenberry had a special guest on with him touring the set that day, because he was just starting. He was getting interested in acting. Can you guess who was on set that day with Gene Roddenberry being escorted around? O.J. Simpson.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, so weird.
That explains so much.
So he toured the set during the filming of this episode.
That
is weird.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, and then according to this, also O.J. Simpson was witness to the cast being told that this series was ending.
Really? What a weird person to be there.
He was standing there with Gene Roddenberry when the cast was told. That's weird.
That is awkward.
We have officially launched the 5-Year Mission Patreon. On there you can see posts with pictures and videos of behind-the-scenes shenanigans with the band and the podcast. There are different levels you can sign up for, where you'll get exclusive merch and videos and unreleased tracks and demos and other stuff from the band and the podcast that you wouldn't normally get if you didn't follow us on Patreon. The different tiers you get to choose from go from ensign all the way up to admiral, and one of the perks of being an admiral is that you get to be a producer on this podcast. This week's producers are Neil Carpenter, Debbie Rinke, Helen Lake, Carol Jones, Steve and Frankie Palopoli, Madison Rachel Jones, Becky and Roxy, and of course, Jim Morehouse. So head over to the 5-Year Mission Patreon right now and sign up as an admiral, and your name could be listed at the end of the next episode of 5-Year Mission, the podcast. Just go to patreon.com/5-Year Mission. That's the number 5-Year Mission.
Fansets.com is your home for all things pop culture pin related. You should know this by now. I talk about it every single week here on 5-Year Mission, the podcast. But they have everything from Harry Potter and Firefly to everything Star Trek. As a matter of fact, my kids and I are about to start finishing up season 2 of Star Trek Discovery right now, and I had them flip through the Fansets.com website, and they chose as their favorite pins the episodic pin, The Butcher's Knife Cares Not for the Lamb's Cry with Ripper, and also the Sound of Thunder featuring Saru. And little did they know that I already placed those 2 pins in my cart, and I'm going to use the special discount code 5-Year Mission. That's the number 5, and then all caps Year Mission. And so then the boys over at Fansets.com will be sending those here to my house, and the kids will be able to wear those with pride as soon as they can get back to school. What do you think of that, guys?
Yay good.
Yay good. That's the kind of enthusiasm I like to see in a Fansets.com ad. Good job, guys.
if you haven't seen these episodes in a while, maybe it's time to watch them again.
So that's going to wrap up this episode of 5-Year Mission, the podcast. Tune in next time. I have no clue what we're doing yet. We'll probably discuss that after we hit stop on the recording. So until then, send us some ideas.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 5-Year Mission, the podcast. If any of you are interested in listening to more of our music, you can check us out on YouTube or Spotify or iTunes or pretty much anywhere that you can listen to music. Just search for 5-Year Mission and we should be the first thing that comes up. If you would like to contact us in regards to the podcast or anything else that you want to talk to us about, you can email us at 5yearmissionband@gmail.com.
And for more information about the band, you can go to 5yearmission.net and also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.